Ken Gordon and I welcome you to this inaugural debut of a wonderful, wonderful show. A show that we talk about not action, but about solutions. A show where we'll talk about what we can do and not just about what we can talk about. Words to Action is live right now on Trentonian.com, and we want to thank first and foremost Trentonian TV for giving us this wonderful opportunity to come into your homes and into wherever it is that you can get a computer so that we can talk to you about some action, some things that you can do. So many times in today's world we listen to people talk about everything that's wrong. We listen to people talk about everything that ought to happen, but they don't go out and do it. I love when Nike says just do it, because what they're ultimately saying is don't talk about it. Don't just say you want to do it, go make it happen. One of the things I often say is there are four kinds of people in this world. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, those who let things happen, and those who don't know what happened. We want to be the kind that make things happen. You know, President Barack Obama had a meeting, sit down with Steve Jobs. And when he had to sit down with Steve Jobs said something very interesting to the president. He said, "This country is insanely great, but what I'm worried about the most is that we don't talk enough about solutions." Well, I will tell you that on this show, that's exactly what we will do. We will talk about solutions. So my name is Ken Gordon, and I am here to talk to you about solutions. From now going forward, all of my guests will come on, and you'll hear their opinions, and you'll hear their insights and their wisdom. But at the end of it, you'll hear them talk about solutions. And that's what my first guest is going to talk about today. Today, our topic is the African American woman, the attack on the African American woman. Is it real or is it imagined? In the press, all over the place, you hear about the angry black woman. You hear about people that have all kinds of issues with African American women. Is it real? Or is it something that is a carefully crafted kind of a device used to keep people away from the greatest women in the world? We're going to talk to our guest today and find out a little bit more about that. Words to Action is on live right now with you on Trentonian.com. Go there, tell your friends to go there, Facebook us, tweet us, let us know that you appreciate what we're talking about. Our first guest today is Dr. Tamiko Smith. Dr. Tamiko Smith is the co-founder or the founder of the Smith Carmichael Foundation for Empowering Women. And we're so excited to have Dr. Tamiko Smith with us on this morning. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I can't complain. It's a gorgeous day. It's beautiful outside, and now with a beautiful person sitting next to me, it's beautiful inside. So, Dr. Smith, one of the things that we're going to talk about today, or we want to talk about today, is the attack on the African American woman. We read a lot of different things in the press. We read about the angry black woman. We read about a lot of the disrespect that has occurred, and I want to call your attention to a number of different areas, and I'd like to get your input on them. First and foremost, some time ago, I want to say a couple of months or so ago, our First Lady, Michelle Obama, who is the first African American First Lady in the history of our country, yay, Michelle Obama was attacked by a congressman who said that Michelle Obama had a big butt. He said she should be absolutely ashamed of herself for going around the country and talking about obesity programs when she herself had such a big butt. Now, that caused a mild outstir. A few people had some comments on it, nowhere near enough in my opinion, but let me ask you a question. Are these comments, not the person necessarily, but are they racist comments?
I mean, I think that you have to give credibility to actually the person that's possibly making the comments without having more contextual information about what was the purpose of saying this comment about the First Lady. Initially, I would have to say, besides it being possibly racist, it was just a level of blatant disrespect and disregard for the First Lady. I would put it in that category first. If this person potentially has a history of making inappropriate comments that may waver on the line of being racist, then I would possibly put it in the category of being a racist statement. But initially, I would say that it's a level of blatant disrespect and a level of disregard for someone that is the First Lady. And besides that, bringing change in reference to, our country, not just through obesity, but also being a person that's taking a leadership role, not just looking at things that address or impact the African American community, but women at large.
So let's take a look at that for a moment. You said that you would classify it as disrespect. Is it disrespectful to talk about a first lady in those terms, given her position, and is that something that we have seen in the past other first ladies being subjected to?
Well, I definitely haven't seen other first ladies being subjected to such a blatant, disrespectful type of statement. But just African American women in general get criticized or disrespected in that way. Inappropriate comments about their physique or level of attractability or lack of their attractability in reference to the recent article that just came out that African American women are the least attractive women in the society. I mean, those things are definitely looking at or marginalizing African American women on several aspects, not just physical characteristics.
Okay.
But
So
also,
let me cut across you for a minute. So let's go back to that article for a
Okay.
moment, because that article, which was published briefly in Psychology Today,
Right.
and the article basically said that African American women are the least attractive in the world, which caused a tremendous uproar, and a lot of people had comments about it, but certainly nowhere near the outrage that could have been out there. Why do you think it is that people feel comfortable demonizing black women?
well, I think that, it has to have, it relates to a historical context as well. African American women, for whatever reasons, have always been an icon in reference to being a sex symbol.
Okay.
Whether it being an appropriate way that black women or African American women are looked at or viewed, but it's always been sexualized in
Okay.
reference to their physique. And reviewing the research that came out that you were just talking about, African American women being the least attractive women, I don't even understand what would be the purpose of even publicizing or even completing that type of research. What credence or credibility does it give to the field of psychology? But not only that, but socially, we're trying to allow individuals from different ethnic groups to build bridges and not gaps. And when I reviewed the research, it was this, in research, anything that you want to happen or occur or you want to have a plateau for, you can create that
Okay.
if you're a researcher.
Okay.
And reviewing the research, it didn't seem like what was the purpose
Okay.
of saying that African American women were least attractive based on their physical characteristics.
Okay.
And my interpretation in that particular research, it was almost like African American women were being compared to their male counterparts, talking about the possibility why African American women are not attractive is because basically they have more testosterone in their body.
Okay.
But there were no biological components to the research
Okay.
that was being completed. So it just seemed that it was another attack on African American women in general.
So is this an extension then? Is this kind of a study an extension of this person feeling comfortable enough to call the first lady of the free world to call attention to her derriere? Is that kind of hand in hand?
Well, it's hand in hand in a sense where there's still a level of African American women being marginalized
Okay.
based on their physical characteristics. And as you stated earlier in your opening statements, that African American women are part of being the most beautiful women in the world.
And I find that to be fascinating because, okay, you are African American, I'm assuming.
Correct.
And so it's easy for you to say.
Correct.
But when you look at the world in which we live, and you look at the media, and you look at their perception of beauty, when you look at swimsuit models, when you
Right.
look at Victoria's Secret's models, when you look at Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders or whatever, you don't see a lot of African American women. So that kind of flies in the face of you saying that African American women are sex symbols or attractive.
But I think in a sense where they're sex symbols but not valued.
Okay.
Possibly, like we talked about the initial statement about Michelle Obama's,
Her butt.
derriere. Well, I didn't want to say that.
Her butt, right.
That it wasn't sexualized in a positive way. It was
Okay.
sexualized in a sense that there was something wrong with her physique. And that sends a negative message not just to African American adult women, but also to young females that may be built in that same way or have that same type of stature.
So,
What kind of
so is it
message-
okay then for someone to talk about an African American's female's butt in a positive way?
Well, within respect and being respectful. You can comment or compliment someone about their physique, but in a respectful manner. That just goes across the board for all women.
So why then, if it's a disrespectful manner, does it have to get into a conversation of race? Why does racism enter in the picture? Why can't it just be he disrespected her, period? Where does the concept of racism come
Well, a
in?
lot of times you have to look at the context of actually who's saying it, who's doing it, what was the intent, were they trying to marginalize the First Lady, as we've seen not only with just African American women, but also with recently having an African American president? There are things that are said out of context that are inappropriate, that are attacked to President Obama's character, which wouldn't be said about other presidents,
Okay.
that weren't possibly African American or part of African American descent. So we have to look at, who is saying these comments and what is the intent.
Okay.
But more importantly, when we talk about intent, we also have to look at the impact. What is the impact in sending this message in reference to, because Michelle Obama has a big butt, is she least attractive or less attractive than any other person that may be built that way? And once again, my concern comes into play in reference to the younger females.
Okay.
Because a lot of times the younger females may internalize that message that I'm not attractive because I'm built that way.
Okay.
Even at that level, the First Lady can't have that level of respect. How can I say that I'm going to be able to receive that level of respect if I'm built that way, or I look different, or I have bigger lips, or I have bigger breasts, whatever the case may be, that it's looked at something as being negative?
So, isn't it a bit of a paradox, really, or kind of incongruous when you hear people talk about those quote unquote unflattering features, but at the same time they go and have Botox done, or they go to the gym to try to get into those classes that help build up their gluteus maximi, or isn't that incongruous?
Right. I mean, there's a definite disconnect. But I think that we have to get away from sometimes what society perpetuates as being attractive. And a lot of times that starts with, how do we reinforce in our community what's attractive?
Okay.
Opposed to waiting for people from the outside of our community saying, this is attractive, this is not attractive, if you have this is attractive. Same as we see things in media, we see things on TV in reference to videos, whatever the case may be, certain music, what's attractive versus what's not. I think that we have to do a better job within our households, within our schools, and our surrounding communities to promote that you're a beautiful young lady, no matter what your physique, no matter the build, your stature, whatever the case may be. And we have to send that positive message. Despite what they see on TV? Despite what they see on TV, and I know that it's difficult, but we have to provide that level of encouragement, because if not, you're going to go through life feeling a sense of inferiority about how I look. So
talk to me for a moment then about, looking at your organization that you started, and it talks about empowering women. And I know that some of your research and your doctorate is really focused around adolescents and children. So talk to me for a moment about what this attack on African American women does to African American girls.
Well, absolutely. I mean, from a psychological perspective, it has an impact where if I'm internalizing that I'm not attractive, or if I'm less valued in society or within my community, typically, there's a numerous amount of things that can occur. But for young females, typically, we have situations where they don't feel good about themselves, they're looking for love in the wrong places. Also, we talk about the impact sometimes of drugs and alcohol, self-medicating. We also talk about things in reference to mental health, mental illness, feeling a sense of being depressed, whatever the case may be, because I can't get out of bed and go to school because I don't feel good about who I am. And I've internalized that message to the extent where I start believing it, and once I start believing something, I also start doing it and acting out on that as well. So within our communities, we have to encourage our young females that they're just as attractive as anyone else in comparison to other ethnic groups. And going back to that particular research, I think that, it was research based on things that didn't even need to occur. What message were we looking for? What was the research?
On the Psychology Today article?
Correct, the Psychology Today. What were we looking to prove?
Okay.
And like I said, in my brief review of the research, it didn't seem that it was stating to prove anything. Okay. It was just an article just to deem that African American women are less attractive. So what do we do with that? How is that helping any community? And a lot of times when we have research, it's about how do we make an impact in reference to change. How does that change anything in reference to how young females may feel about themselves?
But the truth of the matter is that really in the African American community, isn't one of the prized possessions of African American women their butts? Don't we see that in the club scene and people accentuating that? So why then is it a problem if it's something that black men talk about so much, and something that black women love so much about themselves, and that they actually say about other cultures they don't have that gift?
Right.
Why is it bad when somebody talks about it?
Well, I think that it only becomes a totally negative thing when you can't see the whole person.
Okay.
When you only can see the person as someone that has this big butt, and this is something that defines the person, and we can't see anything more about that person and what they bring to the table, whether it's in a educational situation, whether it's a job situation. And once again, going back to the First Lady, when we say it's a level of disrespect, because we're not looking at the other things that she's been contributing to our society, she just gets marginalized for having a big behind. And that
butt word is the problem for you, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's the congressman that started it. I mean,
Absolutely.
He put Michelle Obama's butt on the front page.
Absolutely.
And back to one of your comments, why would he do that?
Well, I mean, I think that...
And I know you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that, but we see it in a lot of
thoughts.
different levels. We see it in a lot of different levels when people, I say, are sexualized or symbolized based on a physical characteristic. Like I said, my problem with it is that when we can't value those individuals, when we start marginalizing or devaluing African American women because we feel as though all they do is have a big butt and they don't bring anything else to the table, that's when it's problematic. And that's when we do get into the categories of stereotyping situations, people, individuals, putting people in boxes. And the negative thing about putting people in boxes, sometimes we can never get out of those boxes.
And I think that's a wonderful point, because I think that's where African American women to a large degree are, and I want to kind of use that as a segue to this whole concept of the angry black woman.
Absolutely.
More than anything else, more than big butts, more than any of the other characteristics, I think one of the biggest takes on black women or stories about them is the angry black woman. Why are black women so angry?
I don't know if that's necessarily true that black women are so angry. I think in general, when we look across the board, women, all ethnic groups, are at some level...
Angry?
Well, marginalized. Marginalized.
Been there, done that.
Or have reasons to be angry. I think that...
What kind of reason do women have to be angry?
Well, I mean, it could be relationships, things that were missing as they were growing up, things that they didn't get, things that they're looking for, like going back to some of the young females we talked about, looking for love, not getting it, feeling a level of being rejected, not being accepted possibly in our particular culture, or being valued. So there's a lot to be angry about, and a lot of times it's misdirected, because you can have someone working at an entry-level job to a mid-level supervisor job to someone that's an executive on an executive level, and that person, no matter sometimes how they handle the situation in the workplace, they're still considered to be angry.
Well, that's a nice try, but we don't hear about the angry white woman. We don't hear about the
Right.
angry Latino woman.
Right.
We hear about the angry black woman. Why do black women get that?
Well, I think
tag?
that, it's part of how we stereotype our, young African-American females all the way up to our adult females as being angry. Even we see this also depicted in films, movies, it's the attitude, it's the shaking of the head, it's the this, and that.
Okay, now I'm going to cut across you because you opened up this can of worms, and I'm going to go there. Right now, the most popular African-American woman in America that sells out movie theaters and plays all over the country is an angry black woman called Medea.
Right.
That is not doing our African-American women any favors.
Right.
Why do we flock to Medea?
Right. But also, let's make note that Medea is not a woman, okay? So, I know what the particular movie, depicts, but I think that, when you look at African-American women, like I said, I always talk about younger African-American women, they may be angry about some things that didn't go right in their lives. But that still goes back to the home, and it goes back to the community. But also, like you're saying, being characterized, that's what we are, angry. We're not angry. There are some people, I'm sure, in our African-American ethnic group that have justifiable reasons for being angry. I know when I work with young females and they have that bit of edge on their shoulder, or whatever the case may be, that's partly when I pull them in and I talk to them. What's going on? And every time I talked to them, they weren't just being angry for no reason. They had justifiable reasons, things that had occurred in their life that made them feel angry. And no one really took the time out to say, hey, can I help you? We still continue to put them in these boxes, and then young, angry females become young, angry adults when there's no level of intervention.
All right, so let's go back for a moment, because you said something that I think is very interesting. So this Medea character is not even a woman.
Right.
But this Medea character is being played out
Right.
by a man's interpretation of what an African-American woman
Correct.
is. Isn't that even more dangerous?
Well, it is dangerous in a sense that if we're perpetuating that in order for me to be noticed or be accomplished or accomplish anything that I have to be angry or I have to put on my angry face or no one's going to listen to me or whatever the case may be, I think that in reference to what's being portrayed in that movie doesn't stand for everyone. And I think a lot of times what happens when we see things in movies or we hear certain things or we had a bad experience with someone from another ethnic group, it doesn't mean across the board that everyone is like that.
Okay.
And I think the disheartening part about being categorized or stereotyped or being put in these boxes, like I said before, we never get the opportunity to get out because individuals outside of sometimes our ethnic group can't see us in any other way besides being angry.
Okay.
So how do we break down those barriers, and how do we begin to educate people about other ethnic groups? And some stereotypes are not true. How do we break down those barriers?
So tell me some stereotypes about African American women that are not true.
Okay, let's see. All African American women don't, spend all their money shopping and don't pay their bills. Or all African American women are not out there, wanting to have more than one sex partner or trying to have more than one baby daddy. And that's one of the big ones. There's situations where not only just an African American ethnic group, there's also other ethnic groups where people have partnered with several people and may have had children or whatever the case may be. It may have just been that they had to end that relationship to move on to the next one.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be categorized that all African American females have, this baby daddy syndrome. That's one that kind of gets under my skin.
Okay. So let's talk for a moment about. From a I'm going to say a clinical standpoint, how do we fix this? What are some of the ways that we can address this?
Well, I think that a lot of times one of the barriers sometimes, even for young African American women or African American adult women coming into treatment, are some of the barriers, not understanding how to access mental health support counseling, or the stigma about counseling, the stigma about maybe having a mental health issue, the stigma about, a lot of times in African American families and Latino families, we're very closed about our private household business. But also it goes back to being able to encourage someone to get the help that they may need, to address some of not only the issues that we're talking about now. If I'm angry, there's typically a reason why a person is angry. Something's happened, but who's asking that person if they need help?
Okay.
And like I said, a lot of times we talk about it relates back to the family, but a lot of times if families are not aware of what's going on with their young daughter, whatever the case may be, how do we access help? And it may have to come from a different entity. It may have to come from the school, or it may have to come from another resource in the community environment.
Okay.
But when we talk about solutions, we have to work, like you were saying before, in congruence. We have to begin to, even part of my organization, education is the only way that we're going to change or address some of these issues.
Okay.
And I can't force someone to look at me differently, but I know that I'm doing something different to change my life, to be a productive citizen.
Okay.
And that's what everyone wants across the board. No matter the social economic status, everyone wants to be respected for who they are.
Okay.
And it's just, to me, it's ironic still in 2012 that we still judge people based on their ethnicity.
Okay.
And not by the person that they are. Take that person at face value in reference to who they are, what they stand for, what makes them the person that they are, not just based on the color of their skin.
Okay. So what message should our young African American women take away from Michelle Obama Has a Big Butt?
If you're built that way, it's okay. It's not something that's negative. As we know, within African American community, there's so many beautiful young women that are built any different multiple types of ways, or whatever the case may be. Skin complexion is sometimes another barrier. But the thing about it, you have to believe internally that you are a beautiful young lady that has the right and the will to blossom and to be anything that you want to be. And a lot of times the only way that we can get there is through education. That's the only route that opens doors for other opportunities, and you demand that level of respect.
Dr. Smith, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank
I appreciate
you so much.
all of your insight and your wisdom.
Thank you.
So the bottom line is Michelle Obama is a beautiful, beautiful woman. In spite of the comments that are inappropriate and disrespectful, Michelle Obama is still a beautiful woman. Joining me right now to talk a little bit more about the African American woman and her place really in civil rights, in the community, and just as a whole, is a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Ms. Loretta Winters, who is the president of the Gloucester County NAACP. Loretta, welcome, and thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
So, Loretta, one of the things we just talked about with my first guest, Dr. Smith, is we really talked about this perception of the African American woman in our society. We talked about the willingness for some people to actually disrespect African American women and to marginalize them to a great degree. Now, I know a lot of your work in the NAACP and really just even in the community is really focused around working with women, women rights, and really kind of driving the agenda of the woman forward. The first question I'm going to ask you is there an attack on African American women that is going on right now in our country?
Oh, absolutely. There is an attack on African American women, and it has been an attack. I've seen it more in the past 10 years than I have seen it before.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why I think there's an attack, whenever there's an attack on something, it's because something is rising. It's a threat.
Okay.
To the community, to corporate America, to whatever. There's a threat going on. If we were insignificant, no one would care.
Okay.
Obviously, we're significant enough. Our voice is heard enough that someone wants to silence it. So you attack what you want to silence.
And that's an interesting point, because if you take a look at Fortune 500 companies that are out there, and you take a look at the CEOs of those companies, you take a look at some of the major players in the world of business, entertainment, etc., African American women are not exactly highly represented. So what is there to be threatened about?
They're not highly represented, but they can get up there.
Mm-hmm.
They can move up, and that's what they're afraid of. It's a shame, because women, especially African American women, I have to defend them.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that they're going to see that glass ceiling is in the missionary position on the corporate rug.
Right.
Looking up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way they're going to see it. Other than that, trying to climb those steps the traditional way,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. And I'm not saying that's what they do, but that's what expected. That's almost expected of any woman out there. And it is an attack on them. It's an outright attack, because the women are the soul and the spirit of the black family, of the black community. They're the ones that keep things going. They keep saying chop the head off and the body will fall,
Mm-hmm.
but the spirit is still there.
Right.
And, so they have to destroy the spirit. You're going to have to and that's the attack on the American women.
So let's go to that whole issue of family for a moment. One of the things that I was reading recently was a study that just came out that talked about interracial relationships in 2012. And it talked about how only 9% of African American women are okay or accepting of interracial relationships, while over almost 25% of African American men. That is the greatest disparity of any of the ethnicities or races. Why do African American women have such a problem? And I know you can't speak for all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but why do African American women, what do you think according to this poll?
I'm from a biracial marriage.
Okay.
I'm a product of a biracial marriage. And if two people are in love, I don't care what race they're from, they're in love, let them be. As far as this, it's difficult trying to do that in this world and in this community, and even in the 21st century. However, sometimes it's almost like the young men, it's like, what's the cool thing to do right now?
I'm going to stop you right there, because I have to read this for a moment, because I hear your answer, but I want to read this for a moment. It says, and this is in a recent study that we'll publish online, or we'll actually put up on my website. But it says the face that a small number of black women choose to marry outside of their race isn't exactly a new discovery, but it might be indicative of a willingness not only for black men to look elsewhere for a partner, but for other races to seek out black men to wed. On the other hand, black women, for a variety of reasons, are not marrying other races, and perhaps are less sought after by other races as potential spouses. You think that's true?
No. Absolutely not.
You don't think other races seek less after African American women?
No, I think African American women are very very smart, very sexy. I think they're the full package. I just think right now it's so taboo. You don't want to do that, especially with the attack on African American women. You know, if there's an attack out there on there, and that's part of the you know, the war that out there is to diminish the women.
So let's go back to something you said a minute ago. You said African American women are smart and they're classy, etc. One of the things that is absolutely true is that if you take a look in churches in the civil rights movement, you see an overabundance of African American women and almost no African American men. Why are African American women so well represented in civil rights? Not in leadership necessarily, other than Rosalind Brock, go Rosalind, right? But why are they so well represented there, and there are so few African American men fighting?
I think the family, the African American family, again, as I said earlier, the woman is the heart, the soul, and the spirit of the family. She's there. A lot of times, historically, you know, even during the 60s, during the welfare movement, the man was removed from the house. He could not get a job. The woman was supposed to stay home and take care of the family. But the man didn't make enough money for the woman to stay home and take care of the family. They started the two-income families because both of them had to go out to work in order to make what one of their white counterpart families would have to make, and they still didn't even meet the one. So they had to go out, then she had to come home and assume the position of mother, nurturer, cleaning the house or whatever, because the man maintained the...
So there's so few men in civil rights and in churches because they're out working?
No, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
So and a lot of times for the women, during economic hardship, for the women to get money to maintain the family, she had to get welfare. So the man could not be there. He had to leave. So a lot of times their responsibility wasn't there. That's how a lot of families were brought up, with the male missing.
Okay.
So it's part of society. It's part of the culture that was there. I'm not going to blame the men completely. What we need to do is it takes a village to raise a child. We need to start putting more pressure on the men out there to be better fathers, the women out there to be better spouses, and bring the family back together in the black communities.
Now, Loretta, even in your own branch, if you take a look at your leadership, if I'm not mistaken, your leadership is predominantly female women.
It's an all-female board, executive board.
Where are the men? Why aren't they more engaged?
Men, okay, you know
Are
what?
they, I know they're intimidated, right?
No. Actually, and I'm going to defend my brothers.
Okay.
I'm going to defend them. You know, I'm not going to throw them under the bus. The women are there. The men usually don't get involved until a hot issue comes apart, like Trayvon Martin.
Okay.
You'll see them come out. But to just the normal, everyday thing, I don't think they really want to be a part of that. They need to be a part of that. They need to be there every day to hold things together. We don't need them to come out just when something important happens to hit the board.
Okay.
We need them there all the time. How do we get them to come out? It's your man, and you're the president of your branch. Tell me how you got involved. I'm flipping the script here.
Okay. As I recall, I think this is my show. I'm not answering questions. At any rate, so all right. So let's take a look at solutions here. So we know that there's an attack on African American women. We know that you know, in your opinion, that men leave the normal everyday functioning, kind of like in a household, to the woman and women in civil rights and in the church, and it's kind of like call me if you need me. What do we do in the African American community to combat this attack on African American women and to get the men engaged on a day-to-day basis?
And that's the problem I have. If someone went out there and said the N-word, everyone would be up in arms. The men would be up in arms, the women, the children. You can't say that. Don't you talk to my son, my child, my husband, my wife. Don't you use that word. But if they turn around and said, can I say?
Sure.
Bitch, hoe.
Okay, no, you can't say
I
that.
can't say that. I can't say that.
No.
Oh,
Anyway, go
I
ahead.
just said I could.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
You know, describing a theme,
Okay.
their mother,
Uh-huh.
their daughter, their sister. No one comes to their defense.
Right.
And that's the problem. We don't have anyone defending us.
Kind of like the
We have to
study.
defend ourselves. And then you wonder why we're angry. We're not angry. We're fighters. We're warriors. And you want to interpret that into anger. That's fine.
Okay,
Sometimes it is.
and let me just
but
say,
a lot of
you
times
meaning
it's-
the world, not Ken Gordon. I'm just
Okay,
saying.
yeah.
But when it comes to, and I think that's an excellent point, is it's not a matter of anger. It's a matter of being in a fighting position because you're always having to fight.
Always having to fight. You got to fight every day.
Okay.
You know, when you get up in the morning, you got to fight for your job. You got to fight for your man. You got to fight. You can't even walk down the street without being accused of being a thug or whatever. You know, you have to fight every day for your image.
So what do we do about that, Loretta? What do we do so that we can take that edge off? What do we do? How can we address that?
You know what? First of all, something that we've been saying all along, vote.
Okay.
You got to vote. You got to get out there and change legislation. You have to go out there and change mindsets. You got to put people in there that will work the laws the way that should be fair and just for everyone.
And let me kind of recap what you're really saying then is that if we get more, if African American women will be more active at the ballot box, if all of us will be more active, and if we will give everyone a chance, then maybe a Hillary Clinton won't have to put 18 million cracks in the ceiling. Maybe that ceiling will be gone because we voted it out. Is that?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. We need to, and not just there, but local. I mean, look at the laws that they had down there for Stand Your Ground, that allowed Zimmerman to shoot a 17-year-old and get away with it.
Okay.
You know, if we need to start changing laws like that. Those laws are actually against us.
So, Loretta, and we only have a few seconds left here, but so as a president of an NAACP branch, as a woman knowing about the attack on women in America, give me a couple of sentences on what you want to say to everyone that can help move us beyond this stereotyping and move us beyond this negative perception of African American women.
You know, one of the things I want to say about African American women is that they are beautiful. I want to talk about the big butt real quick.
Okay.
The big butt, the full lips, these are an attack on us because these are characteristics of a black woman. So,
Well, Kim Kardashian has a big butt.
but nobody's complaining about her big butt.
J-Lo has a big butt.
That's right.
So
Nobody's complaining
are big
about
butts just exclusive to black women now?
Only because it's an African American woman, that's why they're doing it. And it could be on any other race.
Okay.
You have Angelina Jolie with full lips.
She does not have a big butt.
No, but she doesn't have a big butt. No. But
All
these
right.
are, but these are things that, the only thing that, you know, you're beautiful women, beautiful spirit, you're warriors, protectors of family. Just stand your ground. That's the only thing I can tell the women out there is to stand their ground and keep doing what they're doing. You keep raising your kids. It takes a village to raise a child. Don't be afraid to go knocking on someone's door to help you raise your child. Get them to college, education.
Got it. So all of that, and let me just say thank you so much for being on today. And the bottom line, the final line before I bring on my next guest, is also vote. Get out there and vote on a regular basis. Get involved. Join your NAACP branches, your National Organization for Women branches. Get out there and make a difference. Loretta, thank you so much for being with me today. I certainly look forward to working with your branch in the future. As we prepare for our next guest is Nadine Tribbett. Nadine Tribbett was recently a panelist on a forum that the Southern Burlington County NAACP had, and the name of the forum was A Reflection of Beauty Among African American Women, and Nadine Tribbett was one of the guests that was actually a part of that forum. So Nadine, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure for you to be here.
Thank you.
So Nadine, let me just jump straight into it. Obviously, Dr. Smith, we've talked a little bit about Michelle Obama's big butt. We've talked a little bit about women lying on the corporate rug in the missionary position. Uh, we've had some interesting conversations today. So let me take you a bit of a different direction right now, because one of the things that you are kind of known for, if I can put it like this, among the African American race, I don't mean you personally, is really the hairstyles. And there's so many different hairstyles, and Chris Rock recently came out with a movie called Good Hair, where he really looked at the preoccupation among African American women with hair. But during our panel, or during our forum that we had recently, you had some very interesting thoughts on hair, because people were saying African American women should only wear their hair natural. What are your thoughts about African American women and their hair?
Well, interesting enough, I do appreciate unique hairstyles. I don't think that African American women are defined by the way they wear their hair. I don't think that we are defined by our attributes. I don't think we're defined.
No, you're talking about the big butt now.
You stated it. I'm referencing
okay.
it.
I want to keep it clear.
I think that, to talk about me being defined as an African woman based on the way I wear my hair, whether it's curly, whether it's wavy, whether it's kinky, whether it's, textured, I think we're so much more than that. I think that you have the right to wear your hair however you wish to wear your hair. It's not going to define who you are in terms of what you are able to do, what you are able to contribute to. It doesn't, the distinction of how we wear our hair is not unique to African American women, but it seems to be the media, there's a focus on it. And I think that focus is simply because we have such diversity. We're so wide-ranging in what we can do with our hair, how we wear our hair, and I personally don't think you should limit yourself based on your hair.
So should we tell our women or our young girls to only wear their hair natural?
If that is what you wish to do for your particular child or your particular person, if you feel that wearing your hair textured is how you wish to express yourself, and that is indeed what you're comfortable with, whether it's curly, whether it's locked, whether it's extended, whether it's permed, whether it's, not permed, the option is yours.
So Nadine, and I'm going to call you Nadine as opposed to Ms. Tribbett, but Nadine, is it disrespectful to the race not to wear it natural? Because you hear that too. You hear that when you press it and you process it, then that's taking it away from the natural beauty, and that is a slap in the face of our culture. Is that true?
Well, I don't believe that's true. I think that whole notion comes from historically, in our country, during slavery, we were defined by our attributes, meaning, if your hue or your color happened to be a little lighter, a little darker, you were rated. If your hair texture happened to be wavy or curly, or if it happened to be more curly or kinky, then maybe it was less or considered to be not as good or not considered to be good. I don't feel that, again, I think that when we are using our own attributes, the box that we were placed in to rate us in terms of how we wear our hair, what color is acceptable, what style is acceptable. Does that make you any less Afrocentric? Does it make you any more? Absolutely not. We're not defined by our hair.
Okay.
India Arie has a song that says, I think the title is called I Am Not My Hair, I'm Not Defined by My Hair.
Right.
Which is true. We're so much more than our hair. So I don't think it makes you less Afrocentric. I don't think that it makes you more appealing to a Western standard. I think it allows you to appeal to what it is you like, as you like it.
So let me take you a different direction now and ask you a tough question here. So within the African American, we talked about the attack on the African American woman.
Yes.
But some of that's internal. Some of it comes from ourselves and not necessarily from everybody else. Why do African American women have such a problem with other African American women? Why do they give one another such a hard time?
Well, Ken, I'm not sure I'm going to call you Ken, not Mr. Gordon, because I feel that I can. I don't know that. I think sometimes it's. I was tuning into the show and you were talking about some of the issues about what's perception, what's created. I think out there's an intention to always make it seem like, African American women are attacking each other. We're angry, we're just not happy. We can't. We're limited in our choice about what we can do with our hair. And I think that to a degree that exists in terms of women, African American women being able to get along. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that there's camaraderie, that there's an ability to work with each other. I think that what happens is when we come after each other, or when we attack each other in terms of, look at this person, who does she think she is? I think that's your own internal insecurities. I think that we've been trained and educated to judge each other. In slavery, we were judged based on how we looked, how light our skin was, how, the texture of our hair. So what we have done now is, it's like the tragedy of the African American woman, in the sense that we judge each other by the same attributes that was laid upon us upon slavery.
Okay.
So maybe I'm looking at you and I don't like, the way your hair is straight, because maybe I think you're trying to appeal to a Western standard.
Now, you're not talking about me. You don't like the way I look because
Oh,
of
no.
my. Okay, all right. I'm just. Okay, I'm just checking.
But looking at each other based on physical attributes, versus, there's so much more to us as a people, as a sex, as a gender, and we're beyond, looking at attacking each other because of how your hair looks, or, how you wear, or how you articulate, how you, whether you're speaking properly or not. To me, I think when we stop internalizing and turning on each other, attacking each other based on, attributes, perceptions, media created engine perceptions, I think that we grow stronger as a people and as a gender.
So you're in the enviable position of being the wrap up, if you will. So in just a couple of sentences, on this whole issue of the attack on African American women, sum that up on what we say to our young black girls, our young black men, to encourage them to get beyond this perceived attack on African American women.
One, I think that, you tell your children, our young black females and males, one, they're beautiful. Your beauty is defined by who you are.
Okay.
You're not defined by what the media says is acceptable.
Okay.
You're not defined by what you are inundated in commercials or what's across the big screen. You are defined, your beauty is defined by you, who you are, and what you do to empower yourself and what you do to empower others.
Okay.
Knowledge is power, I believe, and I think that when you take a concerted effort in raising your children, your family, you walk that moral value in terms of ensuring that your children, your students, your whatever family members you have that you're influencing, that you ensure that self-esteem, confidence, that education is powerful, and that you're defined by those things, not by what the media says is acceptable or standard.
Thank you. Nadine, thank you so much for being on
You're
Words to
welcome.
Action. I appreciate your being here. And at the end of the day, I think what Nadine Tribbett said is absolutely true. We define ourselves by who we say we are. We don't define ourselves by who other people tell us we are. And that really is the name of the game. Who do you say you are? Not who does the world tell you you are. Not who does it say you are on a television. Not who does it say you are on the radio. But who do you tell your children they are? At the end of the day, Spike Lee was talking recently, and he said that the biggest murderers of our children are parents. Parents who tell their children they won't be anything. Parents who tell their children that you're destined to be just like me, a nobody. But at the end of the day, we have the power to encourage our own. When it comes to the attack on African American women, real or imagined, it doesn't matter. What matters is how you relay it to your children. We talk about solutions, we talk about actions. The action here is not to buy into what everybody else tells you. The action here is not to believe what everybody else says. At the end of the day, you hold the greatest degree of difference in how you say these people are. And if you say African American women are beautiful, and if that's what your children believe, that's exactly what they'll be. On Words to Action, we're about solutions. And the solution to this issue is, first and foremost, everything is not always racism. Oh, a lot of it is, don't get it twisted. But sometimes it's just blatant disrespect. And you deal with disrespect like you would with anything else. You sit down and you address it calmly, and you address it through open communication where you listen and you learn. At the end of the day, if Michelle Obama has a big butt, yay for President Barack Obama. But at the end of the day, it's not about disrespecting one another. It's about learning to live together and celebrating the differences that we all have. Thank you for joining us on Words to Action. My name is Ken Gordon, and we encourage you to take these words and put them into action. Go vote. Go out and talk to a young person and tell them that they're powerful, that they're wonderful, that they're awesome. If you want, tell them that they will be the president or the first lady or the first man of the United States of America one day, because that's really what it's all about. It's about taking our words and putting them into positive action. I'm Ken Gordon, and we are taking words to action.